Hello there. Okay, so to Sky Squall, alright, asking about searchlights. I'm now speaking directly to you. Alright, so these are the searchlights that I own for the most part. I own some other smaller lights, but they're not serious like these ones. This is the T21VN. This is a custom flashlight that costs close to $300. It's just as an LED swap with a very very small LED in there. Okay, you can tell how tiny that is, and what that is it's still 750 lumens, so it's a very intense, very small beam. Okay, so this beam is, I have it locked out here. This beam's very small. Okay, and it doesn't matter how far away you are. Oops, sorry, cat. She got the spill, but she doesn't have the beam in her eyes. Okay, very intense. In fact, this is too much for me. We're gonna go back to the low mode. Anyways, so I mean, when you do it like off this reflection, you can still see a whole bunch. So this thing is incredibly intense. Albeit its weakness, obviously, lumens and the width. This has a very specific purpose. Anyways, this is the LR40R, and mine's a little dusty in here, but it's a dusty city where I live. Okay, and this guy sees a lot of use. So I really like the indication lights. That's something that some of these other flashlights don't do as well as Phoenix does. Anyways, so first off, the LR40R, which I'm going to do my own review on, this is waterproof. Okay, the flap has nothing to do with the water resistance. This is just a dust cover, and it helps protect you from like a ding against another flashlight. You know, because you ding another flashlight right here, and if it didn't have this rubber cover, and if you dinged it, it's possible you can actually hurt its water resistance. That's why it has a cover. That's about it. There's no other reason for that. So, God, these are all really dusty. In any case, this has 18 LEDs, just like the X80 GT, but they're all small LEDs. And that means two things. One, it means they don't have the same lumens as the choice of LED that they have. And number two, the LEDs have a real issue where with the X80 GT, sorry, I got interrupted and I had to take a small break, so I kind of forgot where I was at. The ghost talking about the LR40R. Anyways, just don't, we'll talk more about this, but don't discredit this light. There's 3 mistakes I've made with flashlights. Okay? And some of these are included in that. Okay? One of them is thinking that I really won't throw. And high output throwers like the K30 GT are nice. But throwers like this that are just a small spot, and I've had other throwers that are similar to this, it's not as fun as you think it is, and it's definitely not nearly as useful as you would think. Okay, so stay away from like dedicated throwers unless that's what you're really trying to do. Okay, the K75 is a dedicated thrower, that big guy, and then the K65 GT is kind of a high output thrower, but that doesn't mean it's there's the K65 GT. I mean, the X65 Mini puts out almost double the lumens and almost as much throw. I think it's 500,000 candela or something, 450,000 candela versus 700,000. The K65 GT I think has like 700,000 candela, which is a little bit more candela for half the lumens of the X65 Mini. All right, and we'll talk more about those lights in a minute. I don't have any other lights. Okay, I don't have anything bigger. Everything I have here, well, I do have an old TK75, but that's pretty much a downgrade from this. Anyways, so I don't have those lights yet. I've thought about it, but the real problem is size. And Sky Squall, you seem to be asking a question that is a very common and good question to ask, which is, where do I strike the balance? Where do I strike the balance between size and capability? Because all these flashlights are really nice until you have to use them. And then, this little light here starts to become more attractive, because he's just so much easier to carry around. Okay, this is the L30. I have a carbon fiber ring around it that I put on there for fun that covers the name L30 Gen 2. Okay, you can almost kind of see it. Okay, anyways, and a Phoenix holster for bicycles. So I've used this as a bike light, and it is incredibly bright. Okay, I mean, it is just bam, but it also has a very nice low setting, which is fun to use when it's really dark and you need. It's very, very waterproof. Okay, which is why I like it. These are all waterproof. Nothing here is less than IPX7. This is 30 meters waterproof. I think this is 2 or 5 meters. I think this is 2 meters, and this one's just 1 meter. This one I think is 5 meters. Okay, which I have verified to be pretty true. This one, you need this flap though. Okay, without this flap, it's not waterproof at all. And I have a video explaining that. Okay, the L30 depends on that flap, whereas this Phoenix, this flap doesn't matter. This flap isn't part of the water resistance. And if you look real close, okay, if you look really closely here, and this might be difficult to show, there's no gaps. And when you turn the flashlight on, you don't see any light. Even when you turn it up in levels, you can't see any light come back through. So I mean, there's no gaps. And in real life, when I'm looking at it, you can tell that there's nothing in there. So it's and on the website it says it's a waterproof. The USB port itself is waterproofed. Okay, which just means that it sits kind of inside of electronics that don't have any gaps in there. It's still a window for water to get into the flashlight. So I wouldn't trust this, even if it. And just like this flashlight, I wouldn't trust this because of this window here. Even though I have submerged this before by accident, for a long time. I dropped it into a sink and didn't really realize it for like an hour, and nothing bad happened to it. In any case, so time is it? All right, so don't use too big of a flashlight. All right, don't use. I want to get anything bigger than these. That's up to you. The K65 GT is about this size. I'm not sure. You can check the dimensions online, but it's around the size of the Phoenix. The difference in flood between this and the X80 GT is noticeable. Okay, but this thing throws 141,000 candela, and this throws 34,000. So they're totally different lights. Okay, they both have 18 emitters for flood, but then this also has the thrower. The flood mode alone on this is 40,000 candela. So without turning the thrower emitter on, this thing still throws a little bit farther than this. And at range, these beams are very similar in power. Plus, this one lasts. Here's the big thing about the 40R, that you're not being fair with the LR40R. A lot of people aren't being fair with this. Okay, The LR40R, and I wasn't either. I didn't understand this, but the LR40R lasts for a few minutes on its highest setting. Okay? This, in fact, everything else here, well, except this guy, because he's custom and he's different than the original version. These only last 30 seconds. Okay? So 30 seconds at 4,000, 30 seconds at 32,000 lumens, 30 seconds at either 5,500, and then this has 1 minute on the 3,700 lumen version, but that's still just 1 minute of light. Okay, this one lasts several minutes. I'm not sure how many. I don't know if it's 15 minutes or if it's more like 5 or 3 or 2, but I know it's at least 2 minutes, and I think it's more than that at 12,000 lumens. Okay, but here's the genius of this. Let me tell you where this, because this throws better than this does, even though it doesn't throw farther. Second interruption there. Anyways, so again, I'm gonna kind of forget where I was at. All right, but just don't go too big. Don't go too far for throw. Okay, because throw really seems great, and then it's not so good. And then, God. Anyway, and so then from there, okay, these both effectively. Oh, I know what I was talking about. So the Phoenix flashlights, they tend to have much longer turbo run times. Now, so this one has 2,000 lumens at 97,000 candela continuous, but that's for 90 minutes because it only has 3 batteries. This guy, the Phoenix LR40R, can run this thing at 100,000 candela. Okay, 100,000 candela, which is competitive. It's not, obviously it's not the best here, but it's a competitive spotlight. And it can do this for 7 hours. Okay, 7 hours with this. And on top of that, you can add this, I don't know if you can tell this, but you can add 300 lumens, or you can add even 1,000 lumens and run it for, I'd say about 3.5 hours or so. You can run 2,000 lumens with the 110,000 candela or so, okay, with the flood mode on, okay? And having this flood mode add in there, which you can tell right there easily, having that flood mode add in there is excellent. It's excellent. It's superb. And what's even better is you can turn it on and off. So throughout the day, you can choose whether or not to keep it just as the thrower or as the thrower plus a little bit of flood or not. Okay, so this thing, there's really not much on the market that can compete with this flashlight. Okay, you get 7 hours at the, you can throw as much as far as this goes for 7 hours with this thing. And then on top of that, you can add some flood in here, throw some flood over there. You can turn off the spotlight if you got to look at a map up close. You turn off the spotlight and you go back to flood. And we all say we're looking at maps. We're not looking at physical maps, but you might be doing something else like eating or stealing, bouncing the light, or the thrower makes no sense to keep on. So you switch it all to flood. That's the usefulness of the LR40R. That's what makes this thing great. That's what makes it compete with these two flashlights and with this guy and other things that they're better throwers. This thing's not really a better flooder for very long. Okay, this thing's max continuous is 4,000 lumens versus about 3,000 plus 1 for this. This can go for 4,000 lumens. You can do this. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and you can do this, and that right there, that's 2,000. Okay, and then this one more mode up, that's 3,000 lumens plus 1. So that's 4,000 lumens that this thing runs for roughly 90 minutes. Okay, roughly 90 minutes. It doesn't really tell you combined modages on the instructions. It doesn't really give you the combined modes, but roughly the same amount of time that this does, 4,000 lumens, except with a whole way more throw. So, this is for the X80 GT. This is for if you want width and decent thermal efficiency for flood. Okay, because it's much smaller than this guy, despite the fact that it has close to the same, continuous output, which is 4,000 lumens. Okay, so the X80 GT, this is if you want a really wide flood. Okay, this is way smaller than this guy. All right. The K65 GT from AceBeam is just a little bit bigger than this, I believe, but I could be wrong. It could be the opposite. The comfort on this, okay, it really depends on where you hold it. I hold mine about here, which keeps the tail off of my hand. If you were to hold it down here, yeah, it's a little bit uncomfortable. I don't like holding it there. I don't like holding any flashlight there. I don't hold the X80 GT down here like this. Okay, I usually have it. Actually, I guess I do. And actually, I guess it is kind of nice to have this being round. But I don't know. I usually put my hands up here on the head to try to cool it down. All right. Anyways, so I'm going to do a review on the K30 GT and give you an unboxing as well. But the K30 GT, all right, is so small and yet has such a strong maximum output. Okay, if you're looking for a good continuous output, the SBT 90.2 might not make sense. SBT 90.2 LED is really intense. It uses what you call a special phosphor. Okay, LEDs have a phosphor in the creation of the LED that helps the dye of the LED. The phosphor is what causes electroluminescence. Electroluminescence is converting electricity from the batteries of the flashlight into light. Okay? And the phosphor that's used in the SBT 90.2 is special. It allows the surface of the LED to be a little bit more intense. Okay, so the LED is basically brighter for its size, and that's what makes it a good thrower. Okay, now the beam on this, okay, when you get close up like this, it shows a hotspot. But when you go farther away, ooh, you can't see it on my camera. There we go. So the hotspot gets, look at that. The hotspot gets really tiny, and then that right there, that's what I can see with my human eyes. You have this huge corona around the hotspot, which is just, it's comical. And I'm going to go over mathematical reasons why that is, okay, in another video tomorrow. And we're going to talk about all that stuff, okay. But in terms of what you should get for, what was your name? Oh boy, I got to turn my computer back on. So, in terms of what you should actually get, my guy, Sky Squall, you're gonna have to strike the balance. Okay, don't half-ass it. Okay, if you want a big searchlight, go for the K75. It doesn't cost a whole lot more than the K65 GT does. If you want something with more lumens but still almost 500,000 candela, get the X65 Mini. Okay, now that's a bigger flashlight. That is a much bigger flashlight than the K65 GT, and we want to note that real quick before you go out and buy it. But it's a nice flashlight, okay, and it'll be a little bit more efficient in certain ways and less efficient in throw. All right, the K30 GT, get this if you want something that, ironically, this doesn't come with a holster. So you'll have to buy your own, your own holster. You can get one from Night Eyes. Night Eyes holsters are pretty nice. But this one you don't, you're not going to, it doesn't come with a holster to put it in. So, this is really important. I have a Night Eyes holster that I use for this one. But it is what it is, okay? And I don't understand why my flash turned off. I don't understand. Okay, well, that might end. No, we got flashlights here, don't we? We'll just use the L30. So, you know, the truth is, okay, this is I would get this. I mean, that's what I got. So, and if you get the 65 GT, it's going to be about as big as the LR40. Check the dimensions and check it compared to this. I'm not really sure how big it is. Okay, all I know is it's you know, it's way bigger than this. It has around 700,000 candela or thereabouts. So it has more than twice the intensity this does. It also has 4 batteries instead of 3. This is 3. This doesn't come with any batteries. I had to buy my own. Some of them might come with batteries. It depends on where you buy it from. But the K30 GT, right? That's what that's what I got. So obviously I recommend it. But it only has 3 batteries. Ones with 4 are going to be much heavier, but they're going to be much better performing. And so obviously you're going to have this trend. On one side, okay, you have small flashlights. And then on the other side, you have, you know, guys like this that are really, really big and perform really well, you know, in the LR40R, which has its weakness of not throwing too far. But other than that, I mean, it performs really well. It throws really far for a really long time, okay? The LR40R, it lasts a lot longer. Anyways, so it has its advantages. So don't discredit this light. Okay, consider it. If you really want something that has good run times, I don't know what your charging situation is, how easy it is for you to charge flashlight batteries. If you have a 4-bay charger, then the X80 GT makes sense. But if you don't, then this guy charges the batteries itself. That kind of saves you like $20. Anyways, 20 US. This guy doesn't come with batteries, doesn't come with a charger. So you'll have to get those things yourself. Or at least mine didn't. It will probably cost more than $165 US if you get it with batteries. It probably will cost around $200 with batteries. So, you know, this has a much smoother texture than this one. I don't know why. I don't know how or why they were able to improve that so much, but this battery cage is just totally different, totally upscale. Anyway, so the qualities on these are so good. I've dropped this thing 4 or 5 times on concrete from 3 feet, and it does, nothing's happened. It still works just fine. I dropped it another time while I was running, and it tumbled on rocks and stuff, and it hit the fence. It hit a fence. I had it tethered to my body, but I fell too, so it kind of hit the ground hard. It didn't hit the ground too hard, Sky Squall. Anyways, so just this is gonna be a long video, and I'm gonna have to delete it off my phone. So I'm gonna have to upload this today. So I'm definitely gonna do that. Just, you know, happy trails, right? I don't know. I have all 3 of these lights because they are so different. And if you want the K65 GT, I want the K65 GT. I can't necessarily afford everything. I think I'm gonna get the K75 because I don't know. It feels right. It feels like the next light for me. And we're gonna see about it, but I'm not gonna get it for weeks. So don't hold out on me. If you want the K75, get it. That's pretty much the farthest natural throwing light. The only thing that compares with it is the BLF GT, which is way overpriced. It actually costs more than the K75, even though it costed a lot less to design. The K75 does not have a good heat sink, but that saves you on money and it saves you on weight. So the K75 works, right? It has 1.5 million candela, which is twice what the K65 GT has. So it has twice what the K65 GT has, which is, let's just pretend this is it. This is the K65 GT. But then this guy has twice what this has. Now I think the K65 GT is longer than this. So I think it's taller, but I don't think it's a whole lot wider. That's my opinion from from not owning it. I don't own the X65 Mini. That's different. That's like if you want this, but you also want it to throw, then X65 Mini. But those are all 30-second flashlights. They're all 30 seconds at maximum. Even the K75, despite its large size, is only 30 seconds at maximum. It doesn't go down too far. I think it goes down to 4,000 lumens. The K65 Mini, I don't know. Not Mini, GT. The K65 GT, I'm not sure what its maximum sustainable output is. I do know that it will probably run for 90 minutes, just like this and the original version of the T21, everything, and this little guy. This guy runs at 2,000 lumens for 90 minutes, which is absolutely nuts. It's nuts for its size. Okay, this guy is crazy, but he's so much smaller that you just don't get the power. I recommend against Astrolux and all the BLF brands, which is going to be Astrolux, Metaminco, MSR, all these other ones, for something you're going to need or use. Okay? Be careful with buying a flashlight based on what you need or use. All right? Because what you need or use is different than what you want. All right? What you need or what you're going to use more is going to be flutters. And even though I've replaced carrying this with carrying this guy, I still carry all four of these things. And of course I carry this as a bike light. But just understand, okay? Understand that you're not going to get, all right, the best of both worlds. The best of both worlds with searchlights doesn't exist. The LR40 is close because it gives you two options, sort of, when you're carrying it. But neither is really the best that it could be for its size. So it's not really the best of both worlds either. Okay? You're not going to find a flashlight that's compact like this, but has the strength of the R90TS. You're looking at the R90TS, or you already own it. It says R90TS. Okay, so you already own the R90TS, and it was too big for you. In that case, I wouldn't get the K75 because it looks like it's pretty close to the same size, although it is smaller. And if size has defeated you once, size will defeat you a second time. So I would ask you, I would implore you to get the K30 GT. Okay. Just because it's so small and you're going to actually have it with you. If you really want something with good run times, though, with throw, and then also good run times with flood, LR40R it's a good bet. Okay, it's all about run times. This is not the brightest, but it is the brightest for the longest amount of time. Like I said, it's just as bright as this, but instead of 1.5 hours, but for 7 hours. And then alternatively, 4,000 lumens for just as long as this does, with a whole lot more throw. Okay, so you're gonna have to strike that balance of, do I want floodier lights or thrower lights? This is a much throwier flashlight. Then there's stuff like the T27, which is very similar. The T27 is similar to this, and the T28 is similar, but it's got a much bigger head. And the T27 doesn't have a long tail cap. Its tail cap's about here. Okay, and it uses a 21700 instead of 18650s, which is what this runs off of. So the T27 I do recommend. It's a little bit of a different flashlight. T28 looks great too. Those run on the XHP35 High, which is a more efficient LED than the SBT90. Okay, the SBT90.2 emitter is hot. The problem with it running on a phosphor that it runs on is it gets very hot. It's a hot flashlight. Okay, that hot LED overheats quickly. That's the problem with the you talk about said uncomfortable handle. I wouldn't worry about the handle on the LR40R. Let's see, throw 1000 lumen. No, it's 11,000 lumens of flood if you want to compare it to the X80 GT. Okay, you wouldn't use the thrower anywhere. Anyhow, somewhere you mention it compared to some other flashlights. Okay, don't be careful. Getting a BLF light. If you didn't like the quality of the Eminent light, you're gonna hate BLF lights. They're not. Everything isn't there. They seem nice at first, but then over time you find, well, oh, this feature, oh, it's not necessary. It doesn't make sense for this flashlight, or oh, the LED burned out. Because the difference is they mass produce them in a different way, okay, and they're more hand built. There's less machining, there's less pictures taken at the industry, so they have a harder time building the flashlights to the same specification. They kind of they have a written guide, and then they do what they can, and they just hand make them, as opposed to this, which was hand put together, but it was not handmade. This was made by large machines to specifications that machines built, and then from there the people took it and they put it together, but this was not built by hand necessarily. And so, and this one, they take it and they compare it to like 10 other flashlights, and they make sure every little detail is the same. Otherwise, they take the flashlight and they throw it away. Metaminco doesn't do that. Metaminco takes the flashlight and they try to sell it anyways. Okay, so you have like a 3, 4, 5% failure rate on Metamincos, on Astrolux, on the BLF GT lights, all of those big BLF GT throwers. Many of those have had problems. The good ones that work great, but the other ones don't. And that's why I don't have very many of those lights. I have a couple MSRD4s, and I don't really love either one of them. I like the titanium one, but they're not the best. So watch out for BLF lights. Okay, and the other thing is you're only really saving a few bucks, so they don't really perform well. The Metaminco does not compare to the X80 GT in any way, shape, or form. There are no lights right now on the market that compare to this, other than the regular X80. If you're gonna go the X80 route, get the normal X80 so that you get the ultraviolet and the blue, the red, and the green. I regret that. X80 GT is fun, but it does not have the versatility of the X80, and it's more expensive. Get the normal X80. That's just my opinion. Get the normal X80. Okay. But otherwise, you're going to be good with any one of these lights. If you go bigger, then, good for you. I think the K65 GT